Hi, how
Yeah,
are you?
good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, so I wanted to, thank you for doing this. Obviously, I'm glad people take the time to talk to me. And, I always like to let people kind of introduce themselves to people watching this who, if they aren't familiar with you.
Yeah, so my name is Dania Cruz. I fight out of a gym called 4 Ounce Fight Club in Houston, Texas, and I am 21 years old.
Now, I was looking kind of at some of your fights on YouTube and also like a record. It looks like you had done most of your fights in 2021. Am I right?
Yes, I did my debut in 2021. The plan was to do it before COVID happened, but um, the my debut got canceled on the same day of fight day because of COVID. So
Now, when did you like first find the idea to take up martial arts?
so that comes a long way. Like I remember since I was little, I always wanted to do karate. So that's something that always will catch my attention. I was always into sports, so that was something that I was really interested on. But I grew up not in the not in the best financial, you know, situation ever. So um, good thing that throughout time, I was raised by my mom, so throughout time, I was she was able to, provide more for us throughout time. So I started at 12 years old, going to 13, and then at 12 to 13, I started with kickboxing and Muay Thai.
Now, what was the inspiration though? Was it the movies that made you interested in karate, or what was it?
No, so I first started with kickboxing and Muay Thai. So throughout time, MMA for women started getting bigger. The more that I was getting older, um, so around that time I started hearing there's something called jiu-jitsu going on. So then my straight up kickboxing and Muay Thai gym started doing like one class every week of jiu-jitsu. There's like a class of 5 people, and so that was what I would do for like 1 year to 2 years until around that time um, people will start hearing about Ronda Rousey, Misha Tate. So I searched up MMA gyms, and there was one close by to me. So I did the switch from Muay Thai to MMA.
So really, MMA, like the UFC, was what gave you the idea. It wasn't the movies or anything like that.
No, not movies. I would see some movies, but um, it's it's crazy because in the movies sometimes they exaggerate a little bit. So I remember seeing the movies here and there on TV. So there would be blood all over their faces, and obviously that's the case sometimes, and sometimes not. But I would find it a little gruesome because I was young and I didn't know that much.
That's interesting. So it was probably about 8 years ago then, right? 8 or 9
Yes,
years that you
yes, I've been
started.
training for a while now.
Now, what gym was it? What was the name of the gym you started out at?
So I started at this gym called King's MMA. It doesn't longer exist. Same location, Houston, and then after that, I started going to Paradigm Training Center. So Paradigm still exists. It's a good gym for sure. Um, but throughout the way, I started meeting some people. So I ended up at 4 Ounce Fight Club, and I'm very good there at the moment.
Now, what made you decide to start competing amateur in 2021? What was the reason behind the timing of that?
So I always wanted to compete ever since I started. So I would always do smokers. Um, I did a I did like 8 to 9 smokers in Muay Thai, but my mom I had a very strict mom at the same time. So I kind of started more um, going forward to wanting to fight as soon as I turned 18, and she still doesn't like it.
So she supported, but maybe doesn't want you doing it, perhaps.
She'll support me no matter what. She's always proud of me. What's it called? So I've always been like a very quiet person. So for her to see that I'm coming out of my shell and getting in the middle of the cage and fighting in front of many people, it really she's really proud of that because I came out from being so antisocial to doing that.
Now, as far as competing in MMA, was it something where you said, okay, I want to do it, or was it more like your trainer saying maybe this is the right time?
So I have my coach Frank Gallego. So with him, I've always ever since I went to that gym, I I was like, no, I want to fight. Help me out, and he was the one that was like, all right, let's do this. It's time for you. You've been ready for a while, but I've never. It's I would ever since I turned 18. I was wanting to fight, but it never got to the point was like, all right, I have a fight right there waiting for me. But I would always train no matter what. So until I met Frank, he was very into like he put all his focus on me, and he was like, let's do this. You can have a future with this. So let's go.
Now, my friend John, he was one of Max Holloway's original training partners out in Hawaii. I used to live there, and he was asking kind of like, what do you do for a living, and how does it work with your training?
So I do management. I manage retail. So with me, it's always that's kind of an issue. Like it kind of sometimes an issue because sometimes I get busy with work, and so I'm not able to be there at 5 o'clock for training. But most of the time, the case is yes, I am. So with me, how my day schedule looks like, especially whenever I'm training for a fight, it's well, you got to do what you got to do. So I wake up around 4:40, 5 o'clock, and I go to the gym early as possible to do my cardio and lift a bit. And then after that, I'm able to go home without in a rush or anything. Get ready for work, head to work, and then around 4:30, I get out of work, and I go straight to training, and that's how it is. And sometimes I try to do a little bit of cardio right after 4 rounds, so it'll be two to three workouts a day.
Now, let's kind of talk about your last two fights because I watched the fight with Hope Holmes and then I watched the fight with Lizette Ramos. So maybe take me through the fight with Hope first.
Okay, so with Hope, that had to be my debut fight. So that was for Fury Fighting. With her, she does Taekwondo. Matter of fact, I'm actually very cool with her right now. Me and her train here and there. I go to her gym and we train sometimes in the mornings. Um, so with that fight, um, it was many things with what we had to look out. She's older, so she has more strength than me since I still have young strength. Um, she also started at a very young age. Taekwondo, been competing on that, so I had to be careful with her kicks, and her jits is pretty good too. So with her, she competes a lot and she's very competitive. So she doesn't want to lose, and she will make it possible to not lose. So with her, um, since I'm more, I do more striking. I wanted to box her, and she wanted to take me down. So it started off with me moving in and out, just feeling her, um, seeing what she would throw because I had never seen her fight, just competing jits. Um, and then she got in and was able to take me down really quickly. But I was able to flip it and get an armbar on her, and that's how I got the quick finish.
And
And
then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
and then with Lise Ramos, that went through decision. Um, so before her, I had to go fight at Fury again. So that was going to be at 105 with this chick called Cindy Pelosi, I think. So with her, it got canceled because I got COVID. I got very bad COVID. I was
Mhm.
coughing my lungs out and everything. So um, obviously had to get canceled. And a few weeks later, I was like, you know what? I still train my ass off. So I want to fight, and I know I'm gonna get better from COVID. So um, we reached out to Peak, and we were like, hey, can we get a fight on your next card? And they found us someone. So that's how it happened with Lisette. And with her, it went to decision, 3 rounds. It was going back and forth. She wanted to strike me, but I think I have. I have had more experience with striking because whenever we start punching each other and kicking, I could feel her, like holding, like starting to hold back. So then that's where she started wanting to put me on the cage, and that was what she did uh, most of the fight, which is something that I've been working on because that was my mistake of letting her. But I've got my few shots on her, here and there, and that's something that really I learned from, and that I won't do again as a mistake.
Yeah, it looked like she didn't want to let you pummel out. She kept putting you on the fence. So
Yeah,
looking at that experience,
yeah.
maybe give me your thoughts on some of that.
So, then again, I'm still at me. So you fight and you learn every time. I've learned a lot, even on my debut, because my debut ended up with another girl at 115, and I'm a very small chick. So, I now only fight at 105 or 110. 115 is bigger girls. So from all the fights, I've learned to, I need to be good with my weight cut, especially because my weight cut took a big part on my last fight with Lisa Ramos. I felt like, also since she had me on the cage, I felt very weak. So I felt like I couldn't, and I guess that had to do with that the reason that I had COVID. That did affect me a lot. So that's another thing I have to learn, that sometimes it's better to wait a little bit. Um, Even though I really wanted to fight, I needed to first be like, hey, my health comes first. Because anything could have happened. My skin was turning kind of yellow whenever I was cutting weight, so that was a bad sign. But I really wanted to fight, so that's like, so it's all those things you have to learn from. And by the time you go pro, by the time you go pro, it's you're not gonna do those mistakes again, so you're gonna be more ready to be better whenever you do professional.
Now, after that fight, how long were you thinking that you wanted to do another one?
So after that fight, I did take some time off, um, because I said that that happened because I was kind of hurrying up with trying to fight. So I'm still young. I still have a lot of time. So I was like, you know what? When the time comes. So I'm just going to go train. I've had a few injuries here and there, so that slowed me back a little bit. So, but we were finding right now. We actually are planning to fight in May. So that's something that is going on right now, and that will be my first fight for 2022.
Now, wrestling is kind of like it's hard for anyone to kind of deal with if they haven't done it a lot, maybe growing up. And, fighting with Lizette, she's, like I said, she's kind of pummeling in and trying to keep you in the fence. So
Yeah.
look back on just the wrestling part of it. Maybe what are you gonna maybe try to do in training to deal with some of that, you think?
More wrestling and more jits. I do wrestling and jits, but let's say, um, whenever I train, I'm a striker, so I'm going to wanting to strike. But that doesn't mean that I don't know any jits or any wrestling. It's just that since I've been doing a lot of striking over the years, I feel that I'm not as confident on wrestling. But that's something that I've been working on, and having to just switch up my mind and be like, hey, um, you need to just be just be confident and be like, hey, your wrestling is good, so you don't do it. You don't got to be scared of it. Because at 4 Ounce, we do train everything. We go hard on wrestling. We go hard on jits. Our gym is very known for having good jiu-jitsu. So I know that my gym has helped me a lot in improving. But it's just your mentality that has to kind of switch whenever you fight. Um, because with all the fights that I've been doing, everybody wants to take me down. So with me, I guess that kind of developed something like, oh shit, if they take me down, I'm screwed. No, I'm not screwed because I have good jits too, and that's what I want to show in my next fight, that I'm not just a striker. I have good wrestling and good jiu-jitsu.
Now, when you started training jiu-jitsu, what do you feel like in your development you were picking up the
Oh,
quickest?
so whenever I started jits, 6 months in, it took me a while. Like 6 months in, I barely knew what an armbar was because I just I just couldn't learn it that quick as I did with striking. Um, I feel like it took me a while to pass someone's guard. Um, it was very complicated. I would always get frustrated. So, um, but that was also because I would only train once a week jits whenever the kickboxing gym was able to, teach the class. So, whenever I moved to the MMA gym, uh, that's where I started picking up more jits because I started training with people that are actually fighters, and they were guiding me to, hey, you have to do this, do that, and then after that, I had to also learn to work on my jits whenever I strike. So because the jits is a little different whenever there's strikes involved, so you have to kind of switch it up a bit.
But what do you feel from the technical standpoint you were picking up earliest when you started doing ground?
So from the technical standpoint, you have to keep your hands very tight because real quick someone can armbar you or triangle you whenever you're striking because uh, if I would get to the ground with someone, I would always want to strike even whenever we're down. So I would go crazy and swing at the bottom, and then someone will just hold on to my arm and they'll armbar me. So that was something that throughout the way I had to learn to keep myself tight.
But do you prefer to play like more bottom guard or more top?
More top, more
Yeah.
top for sure. Because I'll do submissions for sure, but at the end of the day, I do like to strike, especially ground and pound.
Yeah. So now how long was it? Because you said you're a striker. So how long was it that you were primarily doing striking before you started doing more ground?
So I started striking at 13. So I started doing few jits classes like around 14, and then around 15, that's where I started picking it up more.
And so how much, you said you train every morning at 4, or how many days a week are you training?
I Whenever I'm off camp, two to three times in the very morning. But whenever I'm in camp, I try to as at least 5 times.
Now,
That's what keeps me right there ready.
now as a person who's working, like most people, um, how many times do you think like you're going to want to fight this year? How many more amateur fights do you think you're going to want to do? Or is it just something you're kind of like playing by ear a little bit?
I'm kind of playing by ear a bit, but obviously, as someone that wants to have a future with this, you always set goals for yourself. I would like to turn pro maybe next year, but for right now, I'm trying to get at least 3 fights in for this year and see how they go. Um, and I'm ready. I'm ready. I feel better now from my last fight. I feel healthier for sure. Um, and I've been improving a lot on everything, not just striking on my ground too. And so I feel like 2022 is going to be a good year for me, starting on May 21st.
Now, is it something more where it's more your decision, or is it more where your coaches are kind of saying, this is what we want you to do? Or,
A little bit of both, actually. So me and my coach, Frank, we do talk a lot about everything. He has no filter on stuff. So if he tells me, hey, uh, you've messed up on this, then I really did. He'll tell me everything to my face. That's a good thing about my relationship with my coach. That he won't always be like, hey, good job whenever I messed up on something. He'll tell me whenever I did good, and he'll tell me whenever I did bad. And also my team too. My team loves to talk a lot, uh, and they'll tell you how it is. And that's the good thing about us, that we won't lie to you. So we both agreed that we were gonna take a little bit of time to train, but once we start fighting in this year, we were not gonna stop. So once I take my fight in May, I'm gonna keep being active and go from there. So even then, since I'm going to be active, I might fight even 4 times maybe this year, hopefully.
The fight in May, did they give you a date on that?
Yeah, so it's May 21st. Right now, I did accept to a fight, but we're still waiting on the other coach. So we don't until the other coach says yes. Also, we is not the fight is not secured, but we do have a few names that we might have for May 21st.
Is that gonna what promotion is that gonna be in?
So that's going to be Peak Fighting. That's in Arkansas. Usually the Arkansas fights are in Texarkana, which is on the borderline right there, or they also go up to Springdale. So Peak Fighting is very good. It's a very good promotion. It's an up and coming promotion going on. They're going pretty fast, um, and so I've had two fights there already. That was where I fought with Lizette and also my debut. Um, they're pretty good, man. Like they treat the fighters really good. They're always attentive on stuff. Very organized, and they're always right there waiting for you to say, "Hey, I want to fight," and they'll get you a fight real quick.
Now, your fights that you've had, how much do you watch them?
My fights,
Yeah, just out of
oh,
curiosity.
I watch them all the time. Like I
Hmm.
can be in the couch just looking through YouTube, and I look at my fights and I'm like, "Oh, damn, what was I thinking?" Or, "Oh, damn, I should have done that. Why didn't I do it?" Or, you know, I watch them all the time because, uh, if you keep watching yourself, I feel that uh, that's where you're gonna have to see, hey, this is what I have to work on. You cannot be just avoiding it and not learning from it. You have to watch it and be like, hey, I have to change this, and that's what I'm going to do once I go to training at 5 o'clock. So yeah.
So, what do you think? Like, when you are you kind of critical of yourself when you're watching these fights, or is it just more something where you're kind of reflecting on what you're watching?
Yeah, so I've been very critical. Matter of fact, I've had issues with wanting to watch my fights. Ever since I started training, I would always like put my phone right there in the corner, and I would like even record myself hitting pads or something. So whenever I remember, whenever I would go back home, I'll be like, "Oh Lord, did I look kind of bad?" That was at the very beginning. So, um, but now, obviously, since I'm growing up and I'm, you know, I've been wanting a future on this. You kind of have to learn that, yeah, you have to be critical, but you cannot take it up the heart. You cannot be like, "Oh, I look bad. Let me just not do this anymore." No, you have to be like, "Oh no, I'm looking at this and I look a little rough, or I need to change this. So let me just work on it. Let my coaches know, hey, what can I do whenever I'm in this position, or what combo can I do whenever this person throws this, or something like that."
So, I was wondering because how many like I know the UFC and stuff was influence for you. What other fighters do you pay attention to, if any?
So with me, my striking, obviously Joanna Jędrzejczyk or Valentina Shevchenko, but um, obviously their big names. Just I look up to a lot of girls, so those are the main ones for sure because they're mainly striking, and those are the ones that I'm always like looking at um on Instagram and looking at their fights and just you know picking stuff up and keeping it and doing it in training.
Now, there's a pretty big women's fight coming up on March 26th. You got Stamp Fairtex and Angela Lee. Are you kind of paying attention to that?
No, I love Stamp.
Yeah, yeah.
Angela Lee, she's good and I love her too, but like I said, um, I like the Muay Thai people, so Stamp for sure.
Yeah, Stamp is interesting. It seems that she's kind of like
But
a.
since I'm glad for them. I go actually for either one because they fight in atom weight. So I won't be mad at whoever wins.
Hmm.
And Angela's pretty good. Even her sister, and her brother, they're all good. They're very their family is fully on to MMA. Um, and so and Sam, she comes from Thailand. Her Muay Thai is crazy, and I'm even trying to do some of her stuff whenever I fight or whenever I'm in training. So yeah, like that's going to be a very good fight, and I'm for sure going to be tuning in on that.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I was watching some of like Angela Lee's video. They had like Anatomy of the Fighter. I think Will Harris was out there doing some stuff with her.
Yeah.
But it seems like they're kind of both coming from a very different mind because Angela Lee kind of sounds like this is a job for her.
Yes.
As to where Stamp, she seems more like a performer, like this is just an opportunity for her to be seen and she loves doing it.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
not a job.
that had so many fights already,
Yeah.
uh, Muay Thai and MMA. So for Stamp, it's just another day.
But I think Stamp, the performance is very important to her, not just the fight, but her fans having a good experience. So I
Yeah.
was wondering, like, are you someone who loves doing it, or is it something to where maybe you're thinking about doing it? I mean, I know it's early in your career, but Stamp seems to have fun just being there, whether it's in the cage, walking to the cage. That's just kind of her personality.
Yeah.
How are you?
So I mean, I'm glad I do it. I'm
Yeah.
very happy that I have this lifestyle, even though it does take it takes a lot of time of your day to do it. But at the end of the day, it makes me happy. Um, it's kind of therapy in a way, but at the same time, I love it to a point that I do want something with it in the future, and I do want to be a champion one day, and that's my goal. But um, you know, any fight that I can take at the moment, I love it.
So you're saying it's kind of like there, is it just helps you get away from day to day stress? Is that what it is? Or-
A little bit, but I do love doing it. But that's something that I would want to do as be more not work, but just be what I do every day and just train every day. Be able to have to be able to train every day and not go through management.
Now you said you're kind of more reserved, so is it hard for you to be out there in front of people competing?
Yeah, so that's the thing with me. I do get very nervous to a point that I'm even like twitching a little bit. But I just always have to keep myself in mind that hey, she's not gonna kill you. You've trained for this and you're better than her. So that's the mindset that you have to switch on to and all that. But I do get very nervous, and I know that that's for a fact that it's because I've always kept myself in a shell um my whole life. But ever since I started doing MMA, it's something that you have to do. You have to walk in front of many people and go and fight.
Now, why do you think you kept yourself in a shell for so long? Can you hear me? Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering, why do you think you've kept yourself in a shell for so long? Hold on just a moment. It'll reconnect. Just give it a moment. I'll bring it back on. I'm gonna bring it back on. Okay, I think
Yes.
we just
Okay. Now we're good.
yeah. So I was wondering, why do you think it is that you kept yourself in a shell for so long, like you said?
So I mean, I've had a little bit of a weird childhood, so maybe that took a lot of part on it. I've always didn't have too many friends, and I wouldn't talk that much, so that is something that I just got used to throughout the years. But that's something that I've been working on. Also, that has to do with my social media. I don't really post that much, and
Hmm.
my coach is like, "Hey, you need to post something." A lot of social media takes a big part nowadays. So you have to just be very on point with it. But I'm still working on it. I'm still a little shy here and there.
Yeah, I've always wondered how that is. Like, when it comes to social media, I know some people don't really want to be involved with it, but you feel like it's something that's necessary.
It's not necessary as much whenever you fight and you show. I don't want to say anything bad, but if you have the talent and you show it whenever you fight, you're gonna be known no matter what.
Mhm.
And that is where the people are gonna start looking for you and be like, "Hey, this is the fighter that fought that day," and that's where they're gonna start following you. So I don't believe on showing skin or anything like that on social media whenever you have talent.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like it's kind of this interesting, I guess paradox might be the right word. Like some people they want to put themselves out there a lot, and then maybe other people don't,
Yes.
and it's hard to know what works or what doesn't necessarily.
Yeah. So with me, like I said, I'm still I'm still like a person that stays in her shell here and there. So with me, obviously, I'm not going to be on social media showing off anything uh, of my skin. But at the same time, I know that uh, I don't have as many followers as some girls do. But then again, it's like the more fights that I do, I know that people will be like, "Hey, that's Dania, the fighter that fought for Peak, the girl that fight for Fury. She's pretty good." So I believe that that's the thing that is going to happen with me, because I believe that I'm good at what I do, and that I'm just going to show it at every fight that I do.
Yeah, I think both can work. On social media. That's kind of what I was getting at. It seems like some people choose to do it one way,
Yes,
other, but I think both of them can accomplish the same thing. It's kind of interesting to see how people choose to approach. You
yeah.
know,
It just
um,
depends on the person. Some people are more social than others, and you know,
that's kind of what I was saying with Stamp. It almost seems like Stamp is always a clown to some
yeah,
degree. It's kind
yeah.
of
She's
just
always dancing all the
yeah.
time and stuff. Yeah.
I think if she wasn't fighting, she'd still be doing that stuff. You
Yes.
know what I mean? Just no one would know who she was maybe as much because she's not fighting, but I think she'd still be doing the same
Yeah.
goofy stuff she is doing. And that's kind of what I find interesting about her. And there was a boxer I used to watch a lot when I was younger, Felix Trinidad, and he was like that. He was from Puerto Rico, and even Manny Pacquiao, you can tell they enjoy being there. The fight is the fight, but they like it. They enjoy going to the ring or the cage. They enjoy competing. It's just something that's fun for them, and I think that's kind of unique. Not a
Yeah,
lot of
that is very unique.
I think a lot of fighters look at it as just something I'm doing, but it is a job. I don't think Stamp looks at it that way. This is what she just does, and that's always fascinated me about her and stuff. So it's very interesting to me. That's kind of I felt a little bad watching Angela Lee because it
Right.
almost sounds like she's doing
Angela,
this.
how serious?
Well, it almost sounds like she's doing this because she has to.
Yeah.
And that always makes me feel sad when I hear
Oh,
someone talk that way.
yeah.
Because any job, I've been in jobs that I didn't enjoy doing. Luckily, the one now I don't really kind of dread doing it.
Yes.
It's terrible. It's a terrible position to be in, and I've been in that position many times in my life.
Yeah.
So I feel bad when I hear someone kind of talk about what they're doing as a job, whatever it might be. You know, but you kind of feel like fighting is still fun. It's fun for you.
It's fun for me for sure. I would want to do it as my job full time, but no matter what, I love to work outside, and so even if I have to still work and train, I'll do it. But at the end of the day, I do enjoy just training overall.
Now, are there any other fights maybe that you're looking forward to? Like I know we discussed the Stamp Angel Lee fight, but there any maybe one or two that you're interested in?
Rose Namajunas and Carla Esparza. So
What
they
do you,
go way back. Carla, Carla was the champion back then, and now it's Rose Namajunas. So we'll see how that goes. But for sure, I go for Rose on that one.
Yeah, and that's another one. You see Rose is kind of like maybe like you a little bit.
Yeah.
She's not very expression, doesn't really talk much, doesn't show any emotion, but it's very successful, just like
Yeah.
Stamp. So it's like two ways to accomplish the same thing. But you think Rose will beat Carla as well?
Yes. Rose has grown a lot throughout the years, and that's why she's the champion. Carla has been kind of in the back lately. Throughout
Mhm.
a few years, she hasn't fought a lot as Rose, but and maybe Carla, has gotten better too. But Rose is more um, well rounded. She has
Yeah,
more well rounded. She has shown it more throughout the years.
yeah. It looks like it's gonna be hard for someone to beat her.
Yes. Hey, but
She's
you never know because everybody thought that was going to be the case for Joanna, and one day she lost.
Yeah, but Rose seems to have she seems to do everything well.
Yes. Oh, well, that too. Yes.
Yeah, so it seems like it's hard to see someone in her weight maybe getting the edge on her. I know she lost before when she got slammed, but it's kind of that can happen at any time.
Oh
But
yeah,
she's
that was bad.
still,
I covered my eyes when I saw that her head was going down with Jessica. But yeah, but then again, anything can happen in a fight. An accident can happen, and someone just has to be like, hey, I can't fight no more. Or uh, just anything. But if it goes through decision or just a few rounds in, I still think Rose is gonna get it.
now, as we're kind of winding up the interview here, I always like to kind of let people maybe for the people that are watching this, you could leave them with something if people want to follow what you're doing, or if there's something you want to talk about that we didn't talk about, or something that was important to you.
Yes. So um, then again, I do want to say that I love MMA. I've been doing it for almost every day ever since I started. And I'm an up and coming fighter, so I'm still going to be fighting a few times this year, improving every time, and hopefully going professional next year. So I just everybody please tune in. It's going. We'll for sure put it on show, but then again, it's like you can't really do it unless just with the support of other people. So um, just to please watch my fights. I won't disappoint.
And if anybody wants to follow her, you can just follow her profile up above here.
It's just
And
right there.
yeah, and if you fight in Springdale, I don't live far from there, so maybe
Oh,
I would come watch that. That might be pretty cool
they
to
do
see.
have some fights in Springdale. Um, they don't have one yet sent like that is on a date for that. Um, they had one not so long ago actually, but the next one will be in Texarkana.
Yeah, and I have a friend. He has a promotion that has amateur fights and pro fights that he does kind of around the Oklahoma City area.
Uh-huh.
And there's a couple of promotions in Tulsa, which is closer to where I live.
Yes.
So there's always options in Oklahoma too, I would say.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Now, again, I just want to thank you for taking the time to do this. I couldn't do
Yeah.
these interviews. Didn't have people that wanted to do them with me. And, you know, is there anything that maybe you would want to tell people that are looking to get into training or looking to get into MMA from your experience? Maybe somebody who's just starting.
So for someone just starting, it is going to be a little tough. Um, for sure, you're going to be very sore too. But it's just don't get too frustrated whenever it comes to things because with me and everybody that I've known that fights at the very beginning is going to be very tough. It's just enjoying the process because once you fight, it's it's a go. So whenever you just training every day and just learning, take everything in, listen. Don't just be like, oh no, I don't need to know that. I got it. Um, just take every advice onto training And so, yeah, you have to just listen to everybody, everything that they tell you, all the advice, all the comments that they make whenever they see you doing something in training. Because if you don't listen to it, you might make the mistake once you start fighting. And that's something that will get you in the heart and be like, damn, I should have just listened. If I would have listened, I would have done that mistake and I would have won the fight.
And my friend was asking me some of this you might have just answered, but he was asking like, what advice would you have for like really young girls that are trying to make something of themselves?
So you can now. You've all, women in this sport, it's been very harsh. When me even growing up, even though I would be in MMA gyms, um, trying to train and trying to find a fight, there will be obviously some people that would just look at me like, oh, like what is this little girl doing here? Whenever I would train with guys, adults, uh, because ever at 12, 13, I was looking. I'm pretty short, so I was looking pretty young, and I was as soon as I started training, I went straight to adults. I didn't even do kids classes, so I would always be there. I would get hit, I would get thrown around, but it's just about not giving up. And so, women's MMA is growing every year, um, and a lot of female fighters are trying to, do something with that for the future. So just don't give up. A lot of people are gonna be there on the way saying, "Oh, why are you doing this? You know, you're a woman. You don't supposed to do that. You're not supposed to get hit. That looks bad." Or whenever a woman gets a lot of muscle, they're like, "Oh no, that looks bad. Um, that's not how a woman's supposed to look like." So it's all those things. You just have to be like, "No, you know what? Just fuck off." You have to just focus on yourself and train, because at the end of the day, once you go and fight and you win, they're gonna be right there behind you, congratulating you. Um, and don't forget about what they said. So just ignore everything and just focus on yourself and train.
Yeah, my friend, this is like his third show, and I think he said for women right now, like it's hard for him to find some because when he signs one,
Yes.
within like between the time he signs them and the fight, a bigger promotion snatches them up.
Yes.
It's like a big demand for it right
They're
now.
on demand right now.
Yeah, he said it's kind of hard to get someone in the cage because as a smaller promotion that he is, because a
Yes.
bigger promotion comes in and takes them. He said it's pretty wild right now, actually.
Yes. Now, before, it would just be guys fighting in cards and MMA cards, but now the promoters do want at least uh, one group of women to fight in their cards. So as long as they have at least one female fight, they'll be happy, because that's, a little bit of everything.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for taking time to do this. I know it's not easy for someone who's kind of reserved to do interviews like this
No,
and
no,
whatnot.
don't worry about it. I'm glad. This actually my first, you know, my first of this. So, I'm happy that I'm able to talk about my experiences with my fights and my training, and just everything about me, so people could get to know me better.
Yeah, and I'd love to do another one with you. Maybe let's see.
Oh, my
Oh,
coach just messaged.
yeah, he said, what promotion is that? I have a friend Dylan Smith. I'll put you in contact with him, but it's his third show. He has a show called Martial Combat League, is what it's called. He has amateur fights, pro fights. He has a little bit of a variety of. He wants to have all styles like kickboxing, boxing, wrestling, MMA fights. Jiu-jitsu matches, combat jiu-jitsu. So he has a little bit of everything on these cards. It's kind of like a.
That's something that I've been seeing a lot of jiu-jitsu matches in the cage. So that's something new that is, also coming up.
It's kind of like a buffet.
Yes, a
buffet
bit of everything.
event.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll put him in contact with you if you're interested with that, Frank.
Yes.
And again, like I said, I want to thank you for taking time to do this. And I'd love, after you
Well,
have
thank
another
you.
fight or something, I'd totally be up to do it again.
Yes. Maybe after my fight in May to see how that goes.
Well, it was great talking to you, and it
Great
was
talking
great
to you.
meeting you. I want to thank you for doing this, and I'd just love to catch up with you again sometime.
Yes, for sure. Anytime.
All right, thank you very much, and take care.
You take care too. All right, bye-bye.